Here's a 2-hour interview I did with Fantasy Football Couch, HuseyinTheBrain. It was a pleasure having him on the show, and we've got 2 hours of content for you, and it all starts right now. In the news right now, Todd Gurley and the fact that he's the biggest risk, in my opinion, in 2019. You think people would kind of be at least on board with that thinking or be a little cautious of him, but he still has a first-round ADP, which is kind of head-scratching to me, given he's never rebounded. He played very bad in the Super Bowl. He's had knee injuries in the past, and there's a lot of shadiness going around his injury and what's going on with him. And then there's a recent video as of Wednesday night from TMZ of him limping out of a restaurant. Some people say he was not limping. He was walking funny. To me, there was a clear point where he was definitely dragging his leg a little. I want to know your take on that video and what it means, and did it change anything for you? And I also want to know, do you have Todd Gurley as a bust as well, somebody you're avoiding at least to a certain point in a draft?
Yeah, I got exact answer for that. So a lot of people have like a pimp lip or whatever you want to call it. So what you need to do, so I'm not factoring that video in a lot, but to be assigned, see, I'm very exact, non-biased, so we're going to use a scientific method here. Show me a clip of him walking in street clothes and then compare it to that. Right, like before like week 15 regular season. So that shouldn't be hard to find. So we find that and then compare it to that. Did he have a limp back then? Because some people kind of walk like that. Yes, he is limping in the video. So it may mean something, it may not. Regardless, I don't care about the video. Todd Gurley is a guy I'm probably avoiding because knee is serious, arthritis is serious. And I'm not a doctor and know anything about this stuff, but I do work with a lot of chiropractors, a lot of doctors, doctors on my podcast. You can talk about specific football injuries like Gronk and whatnot. And I also work with people in the stem cell industry. So all this stuff could help him. Obviously, it's probably more concerning if you're in a keeper dynasty league, but he's just a guy I'm avoiding in the first round. Like, what is it? Like number 7, let's just say, is like a good place people are ranking him and drafting him, right? Number 7 overall.
7 and 9. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's just like, no, that's too much. I'd rather just get the top wide receiver or just any other running back like Joe Mixon or somebody, because it's just way too serious. Like, that's way too much risk for me. Like, and we saw it all happen. I think people aren't weighing the pros and cons properly.
Yeah, there's a risk versus reward scale that I always tell people to use, and when you have no evidence of him returning to form, that's where the problem lies. That's where he's loaded with more risk than reward. If he had come back and maybe shown some signs that he was doing good in the Super Bowl, there wasn't this whole like secret of, what's going on with Todd Gurley. Nothing's going wrong. Nothing's going on with me. And then he's clearly injured. He's got arthritis, which doesn't get better in the knee. I believe the only cure for arthritis is to replace the joint. I know you can try and slow it down. You can use meds. You can try and, help keep things at bay, but arthritis doesn't get fixed in the knee. That's not something that they have. And I have a lot of history with knee issues. I've torn my ACL, my MCL, my LCL, snapped my patellar tendon off my kneecap on my other knee. I know quite a bit about knees, unfortunately, and I do know that if you have arthritis and you have issues of carrying the football at all, and you're not going to get better, you're only going to get worse. And even if he bounces back, let's say, does some stem cell, whatever, the odds of him being ready for week 1 for a full workload are, I think, slim to none. And then you throw him in there late in the game of the offseason and he's not prepared, he's going to get hurt. I just don't see how this could end well for anybody.
Yeah, what's the best case scenario?
There
like
isn't.
They take it. No.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, what's the best case scenario for a Todd Gurley owner for redraft leagues? He doesn't, like you said, he doesn't get a full workload. He takes a couple games off. He's not as explosive, or he's a little bit more hesitant to cut. What is that? That is not a first round pick.
That is not. It's not. And who another guy I think, since we're on this topic, and is James Conner, to me, is not a safe first-round pick as well. A guy that was on my number 2, he's my number 2 bold prediction for 2018. I've challenged anybody to find stuff that is written bolder on him than I wrote last year. But James Conner, to me, is at a level where you're paying for a guy that has tons of red flags. And I think that with your first-round pick, like you said, it needs to be somebody safe. It needs to be somebody that doesn't have a lot of risk. And with Jaylen Samuels tearing it up at the end of the year, filling in for him, Connor proving he could hold up. Yeah, guys get hurt. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to always get hurt, but he did get hurt when trying to shoulder the workload. And then Eddie Faulkner is the running backs coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was Jaylen Samuels' coach back in college at NC State. I just think that the writing is on the wall for him to be one of those risky guys that if you put your first round pick on the line, it could burn you if you don't cuff the two, and it might be tough to cuff the two because Jaylen Samuels will be a very popular pick given how good of a receiving back he is, and they lost Antonio Brown. They might utilize him all over the field, even if they throw Connor out there as their number one starter. And then the last thing I'll add, and then I'll get your take, is that there's been no, anointed, here's our starter, James Conner is the guy. Everyone's assuming that will be the case, and one of my predictions is going to be that kind of becomes cloudy in the coming weeks and months. But I'd love to get your take on James Conner because a lot of people do like him.
I don't believe when people say that anyway. He's the bell cow. He'll be fine. Just like how Todd Gurley was going to be fine for Super Bowl, and that didn't happen. So, but yeah, Todd Gurley. Super Bowl was the ultimate test. That takes out all the BS. It takes out everything, and he didn't perform Super Bowl. So that's a pretty good test. We've seen that with Tucker. Anyway, with this James Conner thing. So where would you draft James Conner? There's got to be a play. Todd Gurley, for me, I'm drafting him in the third round. That's not going to happen.
Right. No,
where would you draft Conner?
And you know what? I've got a lot of hate on that when they say, where would you draft Gurley? Because there is a line in the sand, and it's not flip-flopping. I find it so funny when someone says you flip-flop when you like a guy and you don't like a guy. It depends on ADP. Everything is about ADP. Everything.
It's about 100% about ADP.
Yeah. If James Conner fell to the late second round, I would probably take him because I would then overreach and cuff him to Jaylen Samuels. He's not going to fall to the bottom of the second round, just like you said with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley I would take in the third round, and I've said that, and I've got ripped apart from people. Oh, I'm never taking your device ever again in some comments on Instagram on that, which is funny because I said I'd rather have Dalvin Cook than Todd Gurley. Now, are there scenarios where I think I would draft Todd Gurley to trade him? There are scenarios that enter my mind, but if I drafted Todd Gurley at all, it would be to trade him because I can maximize the value. But here's the one phenomenon I think is so funny in fantasy football, and a lot of people don't. There's a gap in logic to where you'd have 5 or 6 owners not willing to pass on Todd Gurley in a draft because they don't want to look stupid. They feel like they have to take him. But as soon as the draft is over, if you were one of those 5 owners, the other 4 owners won't trade for him for anything. And it's just a funny thing. So if you go ahead and draft Todd Gurley, don't just assume because other people would have drafted him that you're going to be able to trade him for even close to what you want. So that's league culture. That's league to league. Because I always tell people they ask me a complicated math question, and I like the numbers, but I'm like, hey, you're trading with humans. Yeah.
And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, we could talk about this. I said we could talk about this trade scenario for 80 minutes, 100 minutes, and tell you exactly what I think. And at the end of the day, the guy could just be like, no, I don't like you.
Yeah.
Or your mom's ugly. You don't know who you're
or the guy one of the guys in my buddy leagues that I do is like, I don't feel like trading. You could offer him your entire team. I want to see how this plays out in week 1. That guy's the never trader guy in your league.
I call it trade hater. Hater. And sometimes a league, I have one league. My main league is a trade hating league. So it is what it is. I'm fine with it. You just got to know. You just got to keep yourself in check. Let's get back to Conner. So I disagree with Conner a little bit. I like him more. Let me put it like this. So I'm not in love with Conner. So I think Lev Bell's ahead of Conner in my book. And I guess it's kind of mixed. A lot of people think Conner's ahead of Bell. Yep. Bell's ahead of Conner. So I don't love Conner necessarily, and you made some good points. But if you're drafting a running back, you want to Conner's there at the end of the first, beginning of the second, which is kind of pushing into being a second rounder already.
Right.
But I'm saying that's kind of your guy. There's not really any workhorses left there. I guess, Derrick Henry, more risk, but could be better. I guess he's being drafted way later, I assume.
Top of the 4th.
That's kind of late. He's on my list.
Ridiculous,
You wanted me to talk about sleepers and okay.
We can. He's on mine too. I love
that's actually a bad example because that's way too late. But anyway,
well, no,
so
it's actually a good. It's actually.
Let me sum it up like this real quick. So if you're gonna not take Connor, I think you got to take a top wide receiver there because there's maybe not too many running backs to take in that range. I mean, it depends. It depends on. So we talked about it's all about ADP, also flow of the draft. So depending on the flow of the draft, there's a good chance there's going to be just Connor right there, or an elite wide receiver. So you would have to take that elite wide receiver unless you're going to go reach for Derrick Henry, and that's second round I don't know. His ADP will jump. You know how ADPs go. Just like NFL draft, how someone's stock goes up or down, like all of a sudden. Derrick Henry's is one of those guys whose stock will go up. He'll be like an early third rounder, or probably actually second. I see him like more close to a second rounder.
I think he'll level off in the third at some point, but I think that to your point, if you want to pass on a running back that's there and you go with, like, let's say Odell Beckham Jr. has fallen that far into some drafts. If you took Odell at the top of the second or something, and then take your running back in the fourth versus take your running back in the second and your wide receiver in the fourth. So I think that is a good approach, especially Devonta Freeman and Henry are both falling. They're like the last of the top 5 to 10 running back potential guys that are falling into the top of the fourth round, which I think is an insane value for both those guys.
That's crazy. Yeah. Freeman's crazy because Coleman's not there anymore. So it's just like, hey, man, if he doesn't get hurt, you're balling. Like, that's it.
Yeah. And attach Ito Smith to him, which, he's not an insane player that's going to go nuts if he gets in there, but he'll be efficient enough. So if you can handcuff the two together, you're covered at your running back too. And I think that is, and that's, I believe you commented on one of the posts. I think Fantasy Football State of Mind reposted one of my topics of drafting Mahomes. Yeah, I made people choose. You had Mahomes in an auction and no running backs. And then you had Mike Thomas and Antonio Brown, and I think it was DeAndre Hopkins. But you
let me sum up your post because people would I'm in touch with this ADD community. So basically, it was a good post. So basically, you had Mahomes in both scenarios. Yep. Okay, you had Mahomes and the dopest 2 running backs. That's A, and then you had Mahomes and the dopest 3 wide receivers, or let's just, 3 super elite wide receivers. And you're like, choose. So essentially, and I said, at my first instinct, which is like the dumb instinct, which is a lot of people commenting, we're choosing, I think, man, what did I choose? I chose the wide receivers. Yeah, I chose the wide receivers because I was like, oh, you'll be able to trade them. Like, how often you're going to have 3 elite wide receivers? So it's like, with the 3 wide receivers and Mahomes, all you're tasked to doing is drafting 1 sleeper running back. Right. If you can get 1 startable running back, you'll make that team work because you can you can get lucky, or you can draft a deep sleeper running back later, or you trade one of your wide receivers for an awesome running back. People are always willing to do that don't have, because and this is another thing that's kind of crazy. Once you draft those 3 wide receivers, the scenario kind of changes and is like, oh, there's only 3 or 4 more left. So it's like there's going to be teams without wide receiver ones. Mm-hmm. Like, even more so that, like, there already is. There's already going to be 1 or 2 crappy teams in your league. Yeah. But if you get those 3 wide receivers, there's a higher chance that there's going to be more people that don't even have a wide receiver one. So they're so desperate to get. And
there's a higher chance of you triggering a trend where people are taking all wide receivers, and then literally you're waiting, 10, 12 picks for your pick, and only like 1 or 2 running backs go. So it's a way to kind of change the dynamic of the draft and the flow.
Yeah, those high-end RB2s and low-end RB1s will be available. Yeah, so like Freeman, Derrick Henry, all those guys will be there to take for cheap too, probably.
That's one of my favorite approaches in 2019, especially in an auction. You can pull it off more in an auction. You can do some trading to get some draft picks up high enough to do that kind of maneuvering. But in an auction, and I'm a big fan of Pat Mahomes investing in an auction. I know there's a lot of QBs that have value. I get it. I hear it. I've been doing this for 15 years. I hear it over and over again. Yet year after year, people regurgitating, you have to wait on a quarterback. And what I tell people is, drafting Mahomes early or bidding on him in an auction is not a bad approach. Nothing's a bad approach. You have to draft to your strength. And if you're a good wide receiver drafter, sleeper wide receivers are your thing, then you do need to draft to your strength and draft running backs early. Or if you're the guy at landing sleeper running backs, it sounds like you and I are the same in that. Then going wide receiver, even wide receiver again can work for guys like us because we're stacking the Jaylen Samuels this year and the James Connors of last year. I load up on all of the redraft rookie running backs because one of those guys is going to pop. And like you said, a Freeman or a Henry is going to fall, or somebody of that caliber, of that nature. So I tell people, make sure you draft to your strength and don't listen to anybody that tells you there is one way to go. Like, you can't take a quarterback early. That's stupid. You can take a quarterback early if it works for you. But that scenario, I got more flack on having Mahomes involved at all than people answering the questions and not liking, the player.
What does that have to do with anything?
I know.
That's a non-factor.
Yeah.
Mahomes is sexy. It makes the post more sexy. Gets it more likes.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want him to put? Matt Stafford? I don't understand why people because A has Mahomes and B has Mahomes. And it's like, it should just get you, it's a social media post. It should just get you excited that you're getting Mahomes. So I don't understand why people got mad at some fictional thing posted in like March or April. I don't even understand that.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield. Love him, hate him. Where's he rank for you? Top 2 or 3, too bold?
Yeah, top 2 or 3's probably too bold, but like I'm more towards the love. Like, I was a huge fan of his. I bet that the Browns would win 6+ games last season. I was trying to get the bet at 5.5 because they really liked it there, but I got lucky and I got the 6 and Baker Mayfield, what he did, and Tyrod Taylor almost messed up the bet for me. But closer to love, ranking him top 3, seems a bit bold to me. I'm not as bold as you.
I got Mahomes 1, A-Rod 2. I think people aren't factoring in the fact that they're gonna get back to what they're good at, and I think they'll have a good running attack this year, which will balance things out. But I think A-Rod number 2, and then I have Mayfield at 3 with Watson and Luck, and those guys are all kind of right there competing for that 4th spot.
So you're ranking him. Let's just put it like, I'd have Mayfield. So I have him higher than most, but you have him way higher than even that. So I'd put him ahead of Newton. I'd put him ahead of Matt Ryan probably. So now it's tough because we have Breeze, Russell Wilson, Watson, and Luck, and that's just kind of tough to rank him ahead of those guys. I do have Mahomes 1, Rodgers 2. I mean, I guess I see it's possible because, like, I don't know. That's a tough one. It could go. Mayfield was amazing. Yeah, the offense is just going to be. I feel like even if he never, like, he played a game or like 2-3 quarters and never threw to Odell, he'd still be pretty good. Because defense, the defense has still got to worry about him. Like, he'd still put up good numbers because that's kind of what he did.
Yeah.
He did it with a bunch of nobodies and Jarvis, and then now if you add Odell as like even a decoy, that's already making the offense better.
And between Chubb and Hunt, they really are genius in setting up this rushing attack. Like, however they divide it up might frustrate fantasy owners. Who cares about that? Talking just football, what an amazing move to get Hunt in there and have that dynamic rushing attack that literally is the best 1-2 punch
Hunt's
in the league.
More of a off-field thing. No one's like, gosh, I would hate to have a guy of his talents. Like, he's not like the elite of the elite, but he's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course, if he works out and, he learns from his mistakes and, that's obviously. And then you have, I call him Puke Johnson. I don't even hate him, but I just call him Puke Johnson. But he's awesome at what he does, pass catching, scat back. Lining up whatever if he lines up as a receiver. They even talked about Wishbone a little bit. I think they'll just mix it up. Like, I don't think they'll do anything crazy most of the time, but I think we'll see a couple things like 2 running backs on the field at the same time, maybe even 3, just to put the defense on their toes, and they can do it. Like, it'll work.
Yep, David Njoku's a breakout tight end. I think this year he has top 5 tight end potential. You can get him late, so he's one of those players that if you're targeting a tight end late, you don't want to invest early. Like, I typically don't.
He'll get enough targets though, because there's so many good receivers and playmakers, and then Mayfield spreads the ball a lot. I feel like I see he can work, but I think he'll be a little touchdown reliant, like most tight ends are.
Yeah, I think he will be touchdown reliant, but I think he'll get enough of them. something around the 8 to 10 range, which will make him really, really relevant in fantasy football. And I think past the top 3 or 4 tight ends, it really does get thin. So he'll, by default,
I think thin like that.
Like that. But to address your point, Travis Kelce survives, and I know he's Kelce. I'm not comparing the two, but Travis Kelce survives very well in an offense that spreads it all around. And I think that what people don't factor into is that
they spread it around. They throw it to 2 people.
Well, I
start those other guys in like DFS, like what's his name, Demarcus Robinson, and then Chris Conley's on another. I've started those guys plenty of times, like in DFS and stuff. But usually it doesn't work out. But like,
when there's enough,
I don't know if they spread it. They go to Tyreek Hill and Kelce.
And they're running backs. But I think that my point being that I think there's going to be more offense, more yardage, more touchdowns to go around. So it's going to make it a little easier. But yes, I don't think he'll have 1,000 yards, but he'll have an amount of touchdowns that's going to make him by default be considered a top, 5 tight end.
So like Tyler Eifert, kind of, when he was that one year he did good, like that's his upside, you're saying?
I think he could have more yardage than that. I don't know how many yards he had that year, but I think 800, 700, 800 yards and like 10 scores is definitely doable for someone like Njoku in that offense that's going to be near the goal line a ton. They're going to be one of the most aggressive offenses in the NFL. They'll be similar to like the Kansas City Chiefs, where it's like this offense is just explosive, airing it out, scoring from all over the field, doing all, like you said, mixing it up and doing all kinds of crazy things, and just hard to contain. And I think that's going to, when you have a team that's going to be near the end zone and in the goal line situations and in the red zone, often it creates a lot of touchdown opportunities for everybody, which is why Mayfield's going to have such a big year, because I think he'll have an insane amount of touchdowns when we look back and reflect on his season and be like, wow, just like Mahomes, people did not necessarily see that season coming. And I think that's going to be similar to this. Even though people do like him, they're excited about him, and how could you not? I think the Browns I actually talked about the Browns making the Super Bowl before the Odell Beckham trade, and he got laughed out of a few rooms for that. But now everybody's like, oh, they could definitely maybe make the Super Bowl. I actually bought a Super Bowl ticket for the Browns to win.
You a Browns fan or something?
I'm a big fantasy fan. Believe it or not, I started in fantasy football not even liking the NFL. That's one advantage I think I had when I started back about 15, 16 years ago. So I try not to claim to be at roots a fan of a team when I wasn't there from the beginning, because I started in fantasy. But they are one of the teams that I do follow, and I'm very excited about the rise and them finally being a team that's not going to get.
Oh, don't worry, man. I'm a diehard Niners fan, like from day one. I don't use that. There's nothing that affects me on that draft, because especially like when you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Are you in Arizona? That's the state you're in. So like Aaron Rodgers, I feel like that's a cool play. Like I like Aaron Rodgers. Like I feel like you can maybe get good value. But like if you live in Green Bay or some places in the East Coast, like Wisconsin, or even like sometimes California, because he actually grew up like not too far from me. So it's like, that might be hard to get him, but in some leagues he'll fall down. You'll be able to get him. But with Njoku, I think that's cool if you can get him as a bargain. He's definitely a guy I wouldn't reach for. Tight ends are the messiest, grossest like thing. But here's one thing that I've noticed with tight ends. The winner of every league almost all the time, and I'm going to put some kind of poll to get like a bigger sample of this. This is the formula that I've seen almost all the time, is the winner always has a top 5-6 tight end and never takes the first tight end off the board, which is usually too early. So the winner never takes like Gronk first, or whoever the best tight end is, and they always have a good tight end. I never really see a winner of a fantasy football champion with a tight end that's not top 5, top 6. It's almost like that, that getting that tight end is so important late. And I have a list ongoing. It's in my book, and I write about it all the time. Was it Julius Thomas, 2013? I'm just going off the top of my head.
10 touchdowns, something like that.
Yeah, but he was like, I picked him off free agency, by the way. So he was going like round 15, 16, 17 was his ADP because he played like one NFL game or none, whatever it was. So, and then I know 2017 was Zach Ertz. The least, like the one that's not super obvious was maybe Martellus Bennett one year when he was really good. Evan Ingram, I think, was okay. Also, was it 2017? So, and the last year was George Kittle, the obvious one. So every year, and if you can find that one, and finding that one, that's like one of the things that's so difficult to do. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It's so hard to do. But if you find that one tight end, you don't need him, but it's so advantageous to draft the tight end later, and he ends up being top 5 or top 6. Like I'd say in a 10-team league, it's got to be top 5, and in a 12-team league, preferably top 5, but top 6 you may be able to win still. I feel like that's it. Like just bring, and this is just one person. You know, I'm talking to you. Just bring a couple champions in your head. Did you ever see one without a top 6 tight end, or see one that did overdraft and get Gronk first? Because I feel like that's so rare.
Yeah, it probably is more rare than I can think of somebody winning without. But I think that Njoku falls into that basket, so that's why I do like him a lot.
If he works out.
Yeah. But you scoop up a couple guys, one of them is going to work out. But sleepers, obviously, sleeper you, which I base my site on, sleepers is definitely what I focus on, like landing those guys. So Jimmy Graham, during his rookie year, I wrote something on Fantasy Pros back in the day during Jimmy Graham's, I think it was his second year or rookie year or second year. It's been a while. He's so long ago. And they featured it on one of their articles because I had it like astronomically higher than any other of the experts that were polled on it. So I do like actually targeting tight ends, actually every position, but tight ends especially, and then deep sleeper running backs are definitely what I would say my bread and butter are. And then QBs I've hit a lot on too. Russell Wilson, before he's even the starter, was one of the bold predictions I wrote back in the day. Dak Prescott as well. I know those guys aren't the number one fantasy QB, but a lot of people didn't see them even coming. But I love
Russell Wilson wasn't supposed to start. Right?
Yeah.
Was that other guy, Johnny Flynn? No, I don't even. Is that him? Whoever they pay? Is it the Raiders quarterback? The Packers backup?
I believe so. But
it's so weird how people just disappear, and it was like Russell Wilson's like going to be the backup, and then
I had him on my top 10 bold predictions before he's even a starter. I put my balls in the line that year with Russell Wilson. So not to toot my own horn, but Mahomes was last year, number 1. And James Conner was number 2. And the James Conner-Jaylen Samuels duo was written before Bell was even talked about holding out. So there's nothing even in the holdout in the prediction. But that's what I love to do. That's my bread and butter. It's been for 15 years.
Hey, Smitty hit me up, and he's like, what are we talking? He's like, we're talking sleepers and busts. I was like, I don't want to talk about this. And what is it, like 3 weeks before the draft? I was like, man, I want to talk about what I want to talk about. Well, that's what I'm going to do when I hop on this show. But wait. And then I'm like, yesterday, I'm like, let me give this guy, let me see what's up. And then so I wrote down some sleepers and whatnot and some buzz. And then I forgot what else I wanted to talk about because I started getting into it. I forgot like the real topic I wanted to talk about. And then, I forgot you're a sleeper. Okay, that's what, now I understand. That's what you do. But I don't even remember the other like topics I wanted to talk about. Well, I got lists of my sleepers.
Keep thinking, but let's hear some of your sleepers. Your turn.
Oh yeah. So, like sleeper, the definition of sleeper is loose, and I don't even want to get into that. So like it is April. So I'm just going to go over like underrated players, and some will be considered sleepers. Some will be considered value picks, blah, blah, blah. That's all semantics, right?
Yep.
They're just basically underrated players. So Jameis Winston, I'm start with I got the positions first: QB, RB, wide receiver, tight end. And they call me the kicker whisperer. I call myself that. And then like 2 people call me that too. But, so anyways, with quarterbacks, I got Jameis Winston. This is like the most, this is not a shock, not a sleeper, not a surprise. I feel like everyone else has him as a sleeper, therefore not making him a sleeper at all. But here's why I have to put him on this list is because obviously Bruce Arians, but because Jameis Winston always has that potential, that upside. He's a playmaker. He's also a bonehead, as I put it. He's a bonehead on the field sometimes and off the field sometimes. So he is that high upside, high risk type of player. And just like almost everyone, every player I talk about, he's just like Njoku. I'm not as high on him as you are, let's say. But if the bargain is there, I'm definitely taking him on the offense that I absolutely love. And the offense I'm gonna have fun watching. Like, I'm gonna watch the Browns. Browns are must-watch football.
Yeah, they're like the Chiefs.
And like you say, I'm drafting another tight end too. So it's like, and I'm probably going to pick up another tight end off waivers at one point. So it's like, I'm doing it if it's a bargain. So, Jameis Winston though, like, I think we all know what the deal is. Bruce Arians, he has that upside. I think some people don't recognize his potential, and this is kind of like a break or make it year for him. And this is it. Like, what's going on with the Bucs pre Bruce Arians? Like, there was nothing good. Like, what's his name? Cutter, whatever the coach's name was.
And Godwin is a guy that's going to emerge from all this as well. Chris Godwin's
on my list. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll back off.
That one's another, like, not surprise either.
Yeah.
And then I'm going with just really quick, Kirk Cousins. I just feel like I don't like him at all. Let's say, but I draft guys I don't like because their ADP falls like 10 spots maybe, because all that's going on is ADP is going to fall 10 spots, and I get like a low end QB1, maybe a very consistent QB1 that could finish top 9, top 8 easily, and I could get him for a QB2 price. And then I got Derek Carr in deeper leagues or as your QB2. Absolutely love picking Derek Carr. I've obviously got to see, if the Raiders do anything insane in the draft, which you can never rule out.
Well, they probably will draft like a DK Metcalf or somebody to put opposite Antonio Brown. And it's funny, people judge Oakland before they've even had the draft. The draft is going to be the biggest part of their transformation. So funny how people are not on top of the fact that their offense and defense could change dramatically after the draft.
They're going to focus on defense early. That's said and done. But that doesn't mean with all their picks, they have 4 picks in the top 35, or was it three or 4 picks?
Three picks in the first round, I believe.
Okay, so that would make him 4 in like the top 36 or 35, whatever, because they have the pick in the second round, which is a super high pick. So whatever it is, 4 picks in the top 35 or 36, which is insane. So, and I'm very confident they're going to focus on defense, but yeah, they could use 1 pick on Metcalf or something like that, or wide receiver. They have gotten 4 real wide receivers in free agency, which I don't think I've ever seen done before. I don't even know if I can name them. Here we go. Ryan Grant, Antonio Brown, who else? 2 more.
Tyrell Williams.
Ty Williams, and then another one.
I think those.
Was it J.J. Nelson? John Brown's on the Bills. They got somebody like that who's like not horrible. So they got 4 NFL wide receivers who started at some point in free agency. So that's telling me they're really helping out Derek Carr. And if they're, we'll see. If they do get Metcalf, which is like the sexiest pick, people are gonna make Derek Carr a sexier pick, and his ADP will skyrocket.
Right.
So all depends what's going on. Do you want me to go do some?
Oh, I could toss a couple or just comment to yours, and then we'll go to the next position. But I think Winston, you're right on the money that by default that offense is going to probably crank out top 7 to 10 QB numbers in fantasy, and that's by just default. And I think Godwin is one of my bigger breakouts this year. I think, like you said, a lot of people see that coming, but I think he could still play, really, really well, better than people expect, because Evans is always kind of banged up. So not only will Godwin play amazing when he's opposite him,
or double team,
or double team. There are times when Mike Evans is going to get hurt, and you might have Godwin dancing around the low end wide receiver 1s or high end wide receiver 2s for a couple games at a time, and then sum total he's going to have, I think, a monster year looking back. So I love the Winston call. I think Mayfield's my top breakout QB, and then I think Josh Allen has some upside. That as a guy that you could even get as your first backup off your bench. Those are 2 QBs.
I 100% agree with that.
Hit me with some runners.
I also have like some.
Oh,
people I don't like? Or
Sure, hit it.
I'm a Cam Newton hater. Like, I just go on record saying it. Like, I don't want to deny it. Like, people are like, you're a hater. I'm like, yes, I'm a hater. I don't like him. But still, I'm still non-biased. I actually think he's better than most people think. Because what's the label? He's inaccurate. I just don't think he's inaccurate. He's not. Who's the most accurate QBs you'd say? Because when they say accurate QBs, Drew Brees comes to mind. Who else comes to your mind when you say like super accurate?
I don't know if Rodgers is up there every year, but I would imagine.
Okay, minus last year with all the screw-ups going on, I'd put him up there too. I'd also put Brady up there. Who else you think? That's all I got.
I mean, I'd have to look at some numbers, but I think
anyway, that upper echelon, that's not Cam Newton by any means of the imagination. So I'm not saying he's awesome like that, but I don't think he's super inaccurate either. I think he's a good quarterback, amazing runner. Just ignites the offense when he's on the field. He's a playmaker. But I don't really like his personality much. But I don't let that affect me when I draft him. What I really don't like, and I believe this strongly, just in life lessons I've learned, with a guy like that, and also like quarterbacks, just I don't see him as much of a leader. And I think he did better. He proved me wrong a little bit last year because I felt like he carried himself better. But with all these leaving the press conferences and not falling on that fumble in the Super Bowl, which is like you can learn from that stuff because that stuff is old. But the main thing is putting your quarterback in harm's way is just it's insanity to me. It's not the formula to be successful. I think a quarterback needs more longevity. And this is what opposing defenses do. They try to purposely injure the quarterback or at least send a message because it's however you want to put it. It's bad. It's not good. Whatever. This is football. And I'm not trying to let a dude beat me up. Like I don't want to lose. So it's like, stop running, dude. And people will try to injure him. And I've said this before, and I didn't want to post like told you so because I felt like it's not right to say stuff like that, but I did see that actually happen in the year with I don't think it was Keanu Neal as he got injured, but the other safety on the Falcons lunged himself at him, hit him in his head. He did get seriously injured, and I just don't like to see that from a quarterback. And I also have Lamar Jackson on this list. Now here's a guy I really do like, and I don't hate running quarterback. That's not the theme here. But I feel like he's going to get you rush yards. He's going to do that. And then there's also that injury risk that I just talked about. And then they don't have any wide receivers. It's just disgusting. They're in such a bad – they cornered themselves so bad. And I watch like PFF's videos. They're like, you don't necessarily have to draft a wide receiver in the first. I'm like, what else are you gonna do? Sure, you could use a couple pass rushers, like and I think they will get some. But like, you really need you should draft 4 wide receivers in this draft, at least 3. Like, dude? Who is catching the ball there? Like, they got 2 or 3. They got like 2 okay tight ends, but they're not even like that great. Who's catching the ball?
Yeah, I'm not a huge Cam Newton fan. I'm also not a huge Lamar Jackson fan either. So they're definitely not on my radars this year as well. So I think those are
relying on Tim Tebow stats from Lamar Jackson. I can't do it because he's not you're not going to rely on the passing stats. I'll tell you that. So you're relying on the dude to rush the ball 16 times. I can't hop on that board. There's 20 other quarterbacks to draft.
The Mark Ingram show in 2019. So.
Yeah, Mark Ingram's going to get a ton of carries. Even if he splits, he'll get work close to bell count.
He's coming up on your list. I can see it.
No, I don't have him. I don't have him. But no, that's a good one. Like I just admitted to that. Like I said, even if he splits, he'll still probably get close to workhorse numbers. Like they're going to use Mark Ingram, obviously.
Yeah.
So sleepers, I got LeVeon Bell. I'm a huge believer in him because like you always got to look at the O-line. The O-line is so important when it comes to running back success. It's so much more important. There's like opposite position. A quarterback can change a whole franchise. A running back usually can't, but there are special running backs. We saw it with Saquon Barkley. Ezekiel Elliott added a pretty big dimension to the Cowboys. I'm not going to argue whether he's good or bad. I'm just saying like it makes a difference with a handful of special running backs, and that guy is LeVeon Bell. You're not just going to pay a guy all that money and not give him the ball. Like, he's going to get the volume. He's a great pass catcher. I would take him at top 6. I like Le'Veon Bell.
You know what's funny is that everyone's starting to warm up to the idea of him being your number one running back. But after that, especially before the Jets signing, but definitely after too, everyone talking about how they're going to avoid him at all costs and comments and stuff whenever I posted anything, because I'm huge on Le'Veon Bell too. I posted a lot of graphs.
I do see those comments.
And it's like what it's not the same thing that he held out an entire year. So he's fresh, but yes, he's maybe out of shape, whatever. He's got an entire offseason to prepare. It's not the same thing as when a running back or a receiver holds out to week 4, gets shoved in there, and then gets hurt because they're not prepared. He has the entire offseason to get ready, and who knows if that healed up some lingering injuries for him. The last time we saw him play, unlike Todd Gurley, the guy was going nuts. So there's no reason to think until we have evidence, kind of like an official to overturn, until we have evidence that he is broken down or is not the same back. He's the same back to me. So I'm on board with that as well. I think he is, in an auction, an amazing running back to draft, because you're going to get him at probably equivalent to high second round value in an auction.
Yeah, because he's not tier 1 price for auction, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I think there is risk with his, I don't like the way he handled himself and all this stuff, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. And I don't need to draft him top 2, top 3. So it's or auction, don't need to pay top 2 price for him.
Right.
So I'm willing to take that risk, and we'll call it like this. We'll call it a wash. So yeah, he's been, sitting out. He had some issues, this and that. And also, which you can make some negatives, but then you got to talk about the positives. Like you talk, man's had some time to rest, and that's good for a running back who touched the ball 400 times. I like my guy to rest and be ready to go. He will be ready to go.
Can I throw out something controversial to you? Just get your take. How crazy is it to think that he had some off the field drug issues before, right? So. How crazy is it to think he was going to fail a test as the reason that triggered a holdout? I've talked to a couple of people about that before, but is there another reason do you think he didn't come back when everyone thought he was going to come back? That was one thing that crossed my mind. I know that's total speculation, spreading rumors like crazy, but I wondered that myself, if there was some...
So I'm actually friends with a lot of NFL players and know a lot, and I didn't want to post anything about this, but Sports Illustrated came out with a video with ex-NFL players and about marijuana, and I was like, oh shoot, they really released all the secrets. So I think so that rumor is valid, it does make sense to think that it might be true, but it's probably not, because all you got to do, there's a time window. So it's between this time and this time for 4 months, you can't smoke weed. That's it. And then there's a test day. Okay. So after this test thing, which is either in May or June, whatever it is, around that time, there's a period. It's a window. Okay. And we all know approximately weed gets out your system in 30, 40 days, whatever it is. It's some say 30 days, some say 60 days. So let's just make it 30, 40 days. So you have this window. You don't smoke. Then that day passes. There's how do I put this? It's kind of like a celebration day. It's it's a unofficial holiday for some players. Once that day passes, you're clear. So you got 7 months.
I just wonder if he slipped up and didn't come back because of that.
But most people are able to have enough willpower to not slip up for $20 million. Right. So that's all you got to do is not smoke for 2 to 4 months, dude.
Wasn't he and LeGarrette Blount together?
They were in a Camaro with another Blunt, not LeGarrette. They got caught. Yeah, he had some issues with weed, and it's so I'm saying that's definitely a possibility. And then he was already maybe considering this, and then he's well, dude, I'm definitely not doing it now that I know I'm gonna fail. I just smoked a ton of weed. So no, I've never heard that rumor, so it's funny.
No,
but
it's fine.
Yeah, it could be true, but I hope I enlightened you and some listeners on how kind of it works. I don't know if you knew those specific details, but they're getting closer and closer to not being as harsh with it. I mean, especially with these players that are always hurt, and you know, like, you got to be a bit crazy to play in the NFL, at least for a long time, and for them not to allow them to take something that probably it probably makes you worse player. Like, it doesn't like help you. Yeah. Like I feel like Adderall is probably like better for you because it makes you focus, you know, like, from what I never took that, but I'm just saying, like for baseball players, people were telling me like it helped. It's a what's they call that? Enhancement, whatever. Yeah. Performance enhancement drug, Adderall. Because I wonder how they hit those pitches. You take Adderall, you're able to more concentrate on those pitches. So that's a cool rumor, man, and it might have some validity. Because knowing the dude seems a bit crazy. So,
yeah, I've just always thought it. I haven't said it on YouTube or anything, but I've definitely had that conversation, and just for some reason I feel like throwing it at you. But one guy I will say, and if you don't mind me interjecting with a couple sleepers in between yours, sure. But Dalvin Cook is a player that I really love in 2019. I think he can be a top 5 to 10 running back. And the biggest pushback I get on that is I'm not drafting him as a top 5 running back. That's the funniest thing. I'm not saying to draft him as a top 5 running back. Similar to Lev Bell. Lev Bell has a top 5 potential, easy. But you don't have to take him. Yeah, top 3. And you don't have to take him there. So the risk becomes very low and the reward becomes huge. Dalvin Cook, going at the end of the second round, you're not paying anything close to that risk that people are trying to avoid. People are like, I'm not going to pay that. He burned me 1 year or whatever. Even if he missed 3 or 4 games, he'll probably earn you the value you'd pay in the bottom of the second round, top of the third. So if he doesn't get hurt, he's a top 5 running back. So
it's crazy he's going that late.
Yeah, like 18, I would say 18 to 20 is about his ADP. Maybe even in some cases.
21 on Fantasy Football Calculator PPR right now.
Yeah.
21 overall.
Falling. So I love Dalvin Cook in that second round. Absolutely love it.
You know they're going to draft the running back, though.
Well,
the Vikings. It probably will be later, though, so it won't be like a direct threat. It'll probably be his back.
And running backs fall so far in the NFL draft now, any team can take a running back. You'd almost be dumb not to scoop up a Devin Singletary or L.J. Scott or somebody like that at the very late end of a round.
Fifth round, 6th round's a sweet spot to get a nice backup running back and compete. He'll probably be your RB2.
Yeah, so anybody can face that. It sucks. It's the nature of the running back position in the NFL draft nowadays. But we'll see. And L.J. Scott's a guy I think people need to keep an eye on. Got that Le'Veon Bell type-esque game, but he is very injury prone. So his downside.
Well, I got Derrick Henry here on my list. That's a pretty obvious one. Like, if he gets the bulk of the carries, this is a weird running back because it's like you have to use him specifically. And the way the NFL's going is like backs like Saquon, Le'Veon Bell that can just do everything. And Todd Gurley, you know, if it wasn't for that injury, now that he's been catching passes amazingly the past 2 years, like that's what the league is going towards, and I get that you don't want just a runner, but with Derrick Henry, if used correctly, he could be pretty good. He could be better than Leonard Fournette.
What's his ADP? You had it up?
Yeah, I have it up.
I bet you it's at the top of the 4th round.
Yeah, very first pick of the 4th round in a PPR 12-teamer. Yeah, that's absolute. It's like no brainer. I see that as no risk. You know, bro, anything you see that you're so confident in that you know is smart, his ADP will go up. You say like mid-third, it's going to go way up. Trust me. Especially if they don't draft a running back, it's going to go up. Like it just is. Like there's just no way. Like it will go up. Or we'll see. Here's the thing, like we can see like a clip of him at practice or something and it'll go crazy.
Maybe just standing over all the other players.
Yeah, just standing.
Here's a clip of
how tall he is. I actually say that I'm like, look at that defensive end.
Yeah.
People are like, that's a running back. I'm like,
but where's the risk? I mean,
no risk.
He has probably one of the biggest hate fan clubs, I'd say, especially if you go on Reddit. What's funny about this topic is at the end of the year, I was asked by a user who is the last player left in the NFL that's currently a rag that could turn into a rich. And I did a video 2 weeks before he had his 400 or his 204 TD game, and I said the only player left in fantasy football that has rags to riches, and I'm talking about top 5 running back upside or nothing, is Derrick Henry, because he was playing a backup role then. I don't know how much you post on Reddit or ever been on Reddit, but brutal place to be. Get abused on Reddit, no matter what your stance is. But I actually posted that video in a red subreddit topic, and I got blasted for that. Have you ever watched football? Do you even know anything? This guy's an idiot. This guy's a joke. And I naively went back to that topic after he broke out and had that monster game, and I got ripped on more, saying he predicted it late. You were late on it. So it's a funny, Reddit's a funny place. I don't know if you guys ever have content on there, but man, they're a rough.
They kick me out of there. I'm not welcome on Reddit.
Yeah, they're a rough crowd. But I love your. Your call.
I got Damian Williams on here, but then like I'm looking at his ADP. It's like kind of high. Mm-hmm. I didn't look at his ADP before.
What's it at?
So like 23 overall, late second.
That's high.
So like I don't feel like that's a steal anymore, because I'd rather have Derrick Henry, in round 3 or 4.
Right.
But Damian Williams, they did get Carlos Hyde, but I mean, has Carlos Hyde really been like, I'm going to be the starting running back? Like, he's been on so many teams. He's always hurt. If not, he's busy getting shipped to another team. So I just don't see it as that much of a threat. I think Damian Williams was the perfect fit for KC. And I said earlier that if I had to choose between Hunt in his prime days in KC or Damian Williams, I would go with Damian Williams. I don't know what it is exactly, but it just fit perfectly. And I mean, stats prove it. Like, did he have one bad game? He balled out every single game.
Yeah, he's good.
It was insane.
I like him.
So, yeah, but you do have – there is worry. Like, Hyde is something to worry about. I just wouldn't worry too much. Like, he's not like, oh, he's going to take over or it's going to be a 50-50 split. I think that's unlikely with Hyde.
Well, it comes down to the ADP, like you said, and so that's what I think is funny when people stick to their guns no matter what, and so you're showing perfect evidence of what I think a good fantasy owner does. They're like, hey, I like him a lot, but the ADP,
that's value. That's like exactly – like probably
where he should be.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
So it's like not that much, because I see Chubb like right ahead of him, who I like a lot. And then right before Chubb is Dalvin Cook. So I mean, we got a lot of, like Dalvin Cook, I mean, at least at this point has no risk of, spreading, sharing the workload or anything. So that's got to be better.
And the Vikings will be a little bit more run heavy, so they'll funnel everything through Cook in the running game.
Who cares? He catches all the passes too. He's a good pass catcher too. They'll go, whoever's a quote unquote workhorse or like, getting a ton of snaps at RB, I'll take him on any team.
Yeah.
Give me anyone getting 90% of the snaps at running back.
That's the funny thing about the against Alvin Kamara argument. Whenever they were talking about will Ingram stay or will he go, or when Lat Murray was signed, people are like, oh, is that going to hurt him? You don't want Alvin Kamara or Dalvin Cook getting more than 200, 210 total rushes. You don't want it. So why would you want him to be the only guy? So, same thing with Cook. I agree. Even if they drafted back, I would be too concerned. But depends on the name. If they drafted Montgomery, I'd be a little bit more bummed than if they drafted,
I guess what's important is the goal line. So I do see their point too. Like, is he stealing goal line carries? Well, I love Kamara because he is a better receiver than most wide receivers. So, and everyone plays PPR. Who do all you guys playing? Caveman standard leagues. I don't hate on that. Like I say play in any league that you and your buddies, you and your league mates have fun. Yeah. But let's just face it, non-PPR, it's caveman. Yeah. That's old. No one plays it anymore. Yeah. So it's like, so I'm just saying, using that, to talk about Kamara, people play PPR, and when the man catches 5 passes a game, that's 5 points. So if he got 0 rush yards, 0 pass yards, 0 receiving yards, and he catches his usual amount, that's 5 fantasy points.
I'll be disappointed.
That's almost a touchdown by just catching the ball.
I'll be disappointed if he doesn't have 80 receptions this year. So that's he's my 1.01. I have a video on that too. He's my number 1 overall pick in 2019.
That's crazy. It's ludicrous.
I don't think so. I think,
but he is top 3. He is really good. And I'd say this, like, if you're in PPR, you're not far off, because that, like I just said, PPR, he's just going to be amazing.
Yeah. I think he's the safest running back to draft, given the offense, given the situation, given the track record. What does he have? 15 averages over 15 touchdowns a game. What are his stats? over 1,500 yards and I believe over 15 touchdowns. I mean, he hasn't had a bad season. I know haven't been in the league long, but I just mean he is the definition of consistency at the running back position when you look at the numbers. I mean, I find it very easy to take him at the 1.01, but I have Zeke Elliott at 1.02, not too far behind him at all, especially given the uptick in receptions he got as soon as they acquired Amari Cooper in Dallas. And then I have Zeke Elliott. I'm struggling to have him at the 3 spot, but I have to. I think Odell Beckham Jr. leaving is not a great thing for him.
You don't like Saquon?
I like Saquon enough to put him 3, but
that's low.
I don't have. Yeah, I don't have. I think he's going to see more 8-man fronts, less yards per carry, and just have a tougher time getting into the end zone overall. Because
that offense is going to be better with Odell gone. I know it's weird saying because look, it didn't work with him there.
But was that Odell?
Eli? No, I'm not even going to spec what's going on. Eli and Odell didn't work that great. It could work with Mayfield. It just didn't work. When I go back and watch the film, it was just weird. And that's one of the reasons they got rid of Odell. Not saying it was the right move, but saying that it just wasn't working. I don't know what it was. I felt like they were better 3 years ago, Odell and Eli. Yeah. It wasn't working this past year, and I don't know what the reason was. Maybe Eli felt pressured to throw to him when he shouldn't, or I don't know, but it didn't work out. And so when, as a Saquon Dynasty owner, I was super pissed. I was like, okay, well now he's going to see, he's not going to be able to do anything. But when they got Golden Tate, I was relieved at least a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, and I was saying okay, this is good for me. I don't know what the Giants are doing, but it's good for me. Yeah. Anyway, my next guy I got on here is Latavius Murray, and I don't really feel like talking about him. I just feel like, if you can get him at the end of the draft, it's kind of cool. Kind of cool as a handcuff too. That's how I feel like. I feel like your Jaylen Samuels handcuff. That's kind of whack because you might have to pay up for him. So it's not the sexiest handcuff. You mentioned a couple more handcuffs that were made more sense. And then this one I think will probably make sense too. I feel like you can get Latavius Murray way cheaper than most handcuffs because people are really on this Mark Ingram hype train, which is Mark Ingram is good, but I don't know what he did why people talk about Mark Ingram all the time. I don't even know.
Well, I think he's going to get volume and in an offense that's going to be able to get him a lot of yards and opportunities.
No, I agree with that. I just mean I feel like out of all the hot topics to talk about, people talk about Ingram more than they I don't know. They just put him on a pedestal. That's what I mean because Mark Ingram is such a hot topic makes Latavius Murray not such a hot topic. What a downgrade. Yeah. We're going to Latavius Murray, which it is a downgrade, but it's I don't care.
Well, but you're talking deep
carries.
You're talking deep, and that's a good pick to stash in your bench. Kamara went down. He would be the bona fide, guy in an offense that's going to, produce good numbers. So that would work the same if he was still with the Vikings. But yeah, I think he's not a bad stash whatsoever, and I think the presence of Kamara is going to make him really cheap. So you're right, right on the money.
RB3 if you're going heavy wide receivers early, or RB4 more than likely if you're going more traditional, and an RB4 / handcuff, which is great.
Yeah. Everyone thought that Lat Murray signing, I think, hurt Kamara, which is crazy though. I like him. I too would cuff him for sure. And kind of like my Samuels grab, and I like this grab Samuels without drafting Connor. I'm that guy. It sounds like you might be that guy drafting Lat Murray and not Kamara. You'll be the guy stealing him away from the Kamara owner.
Well, if I got Kamara, I could handcuff him. Yeah. And I like Samuels too. I just feel like sometimes people might think like you, and he might get drafted earlier than I want him. Other than that, I do like Samuels too. But I like Latavius as a handcuff. Or I might take him late because we got to be in reality here. When people are like, oh, it sucks. Come on, dude. Kamara's not going to get 400 carries. It's just stupid. Yeah. It's doesn't even make any. The way they use him is pretty close to perfect. Yeah. That's how he needs to be used. Get 10 to 15 carries and be basically a wide receiver for a lot of snaps.
He needs 200 carries max. And then he needs to get and that puts him in the closest position of having an insane amount of receptions, 80, 90, if he's getting the right amount of rushes. So I love him at 1.01. Who you got or you got any more busts or anything, or are you going right to wide receivers?
Wide receivers.
Okay.
So DJ Moore is one of my favorite guys just because he's going to be the main guy in Carolina. Do you know what's happening to Greg Olsen? Is he going to be taking Witten's spot in the booth? What's going to happen?
I don't know. I haven't kept up on Olsen, but
I don't think he knows either.
Yeah.
So whatever's happening to him, Olsen is like he's almost done.
Yeah.
If not done, he's like the steak that's already well done. Mm-hmm. And I like my steak medium, by the way. And if it's expensive, I like it medium rare. Mm-hmm. Don't cook steak well done, guys. Don't do that. So he's already well done, and so leave him a little bit longer on the grill, and it's gonna be burnt to a crisp. Yeah. That's what Greg Olsen is. He's basically done. They got rid of Funches. No more Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, DJ Moore, other than C-Mac, DJ Moore is the guy. Lots of potential there. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And then I got Calvin Ridley, who if Julio Jones sees triple coverage, Calvin Ridley could take a step forward. Those two are pretty close. They were drafted close. They're both, sophomores.
Couldn't agree more with Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to, like in the example of Godwin, only to an even bigger degree, dance with high-end wide receiver twos. And if Julio gets banged up, enter that wide receiver one category for stints during the year. And then, again, sum total be a top high wide receiver two. I think he's the future of that offense. I think that this time next year we'll be talking about Ridley and not Julio is that top wide receiver, which I think a lot of people call crazy, but I see tremendous talent. So I'm in agreement that he is a big sleeper for 2019.
Roddy White was the guy, and then Julio was the guy, and now you're saying they're passing the torch.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think Ridley's going to need another year to be considered elite, but we'll see. Year 3 is probably be that year, but yeah. Chris Godwin I got on here. Bruce Arians, we talked about that.
Yep.
Surprisingly, Dante Pettis his ADP is not high, but it's just April. So his ADP will skyrocket just like Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And even though Derrick Henry might go up just a round higher, like 10 picks higher, 12 picks higher, Dante Pettis will probably go several rounds higher. And then I got Kiki Cutie because Will Fuller's always hurt. And Kiki Cutie, even if Will Fuller doesn't get hurt, he's going to be good. I just feel like he's good. Like he's going to get those targets. And could be a little bit overlooked depending on this Metcalf hype and, what happens in the draft. I think you could sneakily get Kiki Cutie. I feel like these other names I listed are a little bit more higher profile.
Cutie and Fuller are probably one of the only I could think of handcuff situations at wide receiver in the league that makes sense. Because normally you handcuff running backs, but you could actually handcuff those two wide receivers, and probably one of them will be very productive. And when and if Fuller gets hurt, Cutie steps in, and Cutie might be better than him right off the bat. But that's that one situation where it's like, you know what, you could almost cuff those two guys.
Don't do that if you have a shallow bench, because all these people that talk to me, sometimes they have shallow benches. Yeah. But if you have 7 or more bench spots, that's a possibility. But if you have 5 bench spots or shallower, it can't be. You probably don't handcuff anybody.
You probably can't own either of those guys in that league.
Yeah, we got 7 in all our leagues, basically. We got 7 bench spots, or 9 in Dynasty. I think it should be more like 10 or 12.
You got any openings? Throw me in.
Which one? Dynasty or any
league? I do probably like 15 a year.
That's too many. Seven is the max. Because that way you got to be into it. I feel like I'm gonna be into. I talk to the people in the league and this and that. I'm really into it. I compete. 15 takes away from your brand. You don't have. If you're really into all 15,
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'd say I probably honestly do 8 to 9.
Okay, I've done 11.
Yeah.
I got this narrowed down to a number. So 4 is my sweet spot.
Yeah.
4 is already a lot. And I'm really into 4 of them. That's cool. 4 or 5. 7 is the absolute max. That's my rule. I will never ever go above 7. So this year I'm planning to do more best ball, because everyone wants to draft with me. Everyone this and that, and they want to be on the Let's Draft series. So I'm like, dude, we'll just do a ton of best ball leagues, put $1 on it, put $10 on it, like whatever, just like, or do it for free even a couple times. And it's like, that's cool. I don't ever have to look at it, and I won't. Tell you right now, I ain't gonna look at all of them.
Well,
so
I'd say I do about 8 to 9 if I had to guess, 8 to 9 for my site, and then I do have a couple buddy leagues, so the number does actually near 10 or so. But
oh my god!
But yeah, but I've been balancing it like that for 15 years, so I'm used to it. But it does make you do have to prioritize some of the leagues. Like some of them aren't that active to begin with. So I'm active. I'm probably the most active in most of my leagues, but I send a lot of trade offers. I'm a madman with trade offers.
Are you crazy? I got some questions for you though.
Okay.
So I guess we'll start with this one. So Golden Tate, like he was really good on the Lions this last year. I mean, I didn't say really, really good, but he was still like pretty good. And then he went to the Eagles. Like, do you still think this man's got it? Like, because I want to know your perspective on that.
So I know we kind of have different perspectives on that situation in general. So I'm kind of thinking that while I think he could still have, and I'm going to pull up his stats here so I can be accurate with what he's done in the past, but I think in a different situation, I would probably think he could have another good, year or two left of being maybe a very productive wide receiver 3 or 4 in fantasy. But I don't have faith in that offense at all. And I don't. I have faith in Barkley, but I think again he's going to face a lot of 8-man fronts. And it's not that I don't think Barkley's worthy of a top 3 pick. That's still mad respect to say, hey, the guy's number 3. But I struggle to have him above either Zeke Elliott or Kamara because I think that offense is going to be limiting. Do I think he can get? So let's look at last year's stats.
Look, how less than half the season was on the Lions, 517 yards.
Yeah.
And 44 receptions. So that's pretty good because I know he had a little. I mean, it's not like the best offense in the league either.
Yeah.
So I think he did really good on the Lions. Then he went to the Eagles and disappeared for most games.
So
then the stats really fell off.
Yeah.
But I've watched him too. Like he wasn't. There's been games where he's got he did nothing.
I think
most games.
Last year's stats were 74 receptions for 795 and 4. Could he do that again?
8 was on the Eagles and 7 was on the Lions. I think that was night and day with the teams.
I think 805 would be the max I'd expect out of him, but that's me. I'm not saying that he couldn't do better. He only has, I think, 3,000-yard seasons in his, 8 or 9 years or whatever he's played. So, moving teams is never a great thing for a wide receiver. Some wide receivers can pull it off. I think that Antonio Brown will pull it off. I think Odell Beckham Jr. will pull it off. But those guys are elite talents, massive talents that go, into situations where, I think they're in Antonio Brown's case, will get fed the ball a ton and it'll work out. And Odell Beckham Jr.'s case, he's going to be in an offense with a good rising star quarterback. You got Tate, who is going to, I think, fit that trend of not, I think, having as good a year as people expect, changing teams and changing offenses. So, I don't know, maybe even matches his totals from last year, 74, 795, and 4. That wouldn't shock me at all if he had those.
So you think he'll be all right?
Yeah.
Like he won't be anything you have a bit of excitement for?
No.
Gotcha. Okay, and I was actually talking fantasy and real life too, so that's what
he helps. I mean, when they got rid of Odell, I thought, people are crazy to still have Barkley, to still have Saquon Barkley number 2, number 3. I think he's still top 5, but I thought it was crazy. Once they got Tate, I'm like, okay, I can kind of buy in at that third spot now. But
here's what's up, though, bro. Odell hasn't played much the last 2 years, so we did get to see Saquon without Odell and without Tate.
It's a good point.
And you still, I mean, even though you don't like Tate, I mean, you still think he's at least he's start worthy. Yeah. So it'll help. So I'm saying, we saw Saquon. We saw Saquon and in college too.
Yeah.
We seen there's a clip of him in college where he gets tackled before the handoff and stuff.
But I do think it's a little different for a team to go into a season or go into a string of games or know well in advance to they have nothing else. We're going to shut down Saquon this year, and I think he'll just be focused on more this year than he was last year when they didn't have.
So you think a team goes, oh, there's no Odell, what do we do, panic? No, they go, there's no Odell. That's what a team, they have a whole week to plan. They go, let's stop Saquon. Even if I had a day to plan, what would it be? Stop Saquon.
Right.
That's it. What are we going to do? Stop the Eli deep throw?
Similar to, and I'm not saying that he's going to have a bad year, so don't draw too much of a parallel here, but Todd Gurley in 2016 didn't have any offense going on around him. He was completely all by himself, hitting brick wall after brick wall, and had one of the worst seasons for a guy that was drafted as high as he was. And he entered in the next year, 2017, as almost a third rounder. People had written him off as being a top 5 running back ever again. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to Barkley. I think Barkley is special. Not that Gurley wasn't, but I think that he's going to have more offensive support in New York than Gurley had that year in 2016 for the Rams, but we saw Gurley disappear. So I just think to expect him to be the top overall fantasy running back is a high expectation, given I don't think that offense is going to move the ball very effectively. Now, it sounds like you really like Tate a lot more than I do, so if that's the case, if I'm wrong about
that much. No, that's why I asked you about him. Like, I had a question mark next to him, because legitimately I thought he was pretty good on the Lions the first 7 games. Then he disappeared on the Eagles. He's 30. He's turning 31 in a few months before the season starts. That's why I wanted to bring him up. Does this guy still have anything in the tank? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
He could.
I didn't understand your Gurley comparison till the end. What you're actually comparing is Gurley's year before he sucked. Because before he sucked, and that was his rookie year, I think. He was balling, and everyone had him like whatever it was, top 3 or number one, whatever it was, and then he fell. That's actually the year you're talking about, because Saquon did good. So we saw Saquon do good, but you're saying that we saw Gurley fall off from his rookie year, which is an exact parallel, because this was Saquon's rookie year, and you're saying we saw Gurley fall off, I believe, sophomore year with Jeff Fisher. So you're saying we could see a fall off with Saquon. I mean, I'm just going to disagree. I see what you mean now. I saw the parallel you draw. I don't think so. I think Saquon is that talented. And one thing I do like about Saquon, though, this is like his stat line. Like Kamara, he gets 0 rushing yards, 0 receiving yards, and he'll catch the ball 9 times, 7 times. That's 7 points in PPR. And again, so I love that.
I want to make it clear. I still have him as my number 3 running back.
But you said getting him out the top 5 would be insane without Tate. And I'm like, well, we saw him play without Tate and without Odell for
a good point.
A lot of the time. And I think it's insane not to have him top 5 every week. Every week he's like my number 1 or number 2 running back, last year. He was that good.
It's definitely, I think, in my opinion, debatable if he didn't have Tate. Now, he has Tate. They're going to improve. And the thing is, they would have addressed the wide receiver position regardless, so it's not like that wouldn't have changed, and they would have.
They probably still will in the draft.
So
I'm not that big on Tate. I said, it's a question. I have my notes. It says Golden Tate question mark.
I'm just saying temper expectations if they don't improve anything. That's my advice to people. But I could be wrong, and he could continue to go nuts even without any support. But I'm just saying, given that we saw it is possible for a player at that level, because Gurley was about that level, I think, in a lot of people's eyes, vanish. And I'm not saying he'll vanish. He's my number 3 running back. But I think Kamara and Zeke are much, much safer in much better situations. So for me, situation can be king when you're talking about all things being equal in terms of talent.
I just want to be on the record saying Saquon Barkley is my favorite running back.
Okay.
I like him. Not necessarily like rankings. I'm just mean like in general, like my favorite running back,
I gotcha. And he's amazing, and I think
he's so fun to watch.
And to prove my point about the offense more so than Barkley, Barkley still, right. I got Kamara number 1 just because I love his situation. I love Kamara. I think he's so productive in PPR. And like you said, I really only rank for PPR. But I think Barkley's still at that 2, he's still right there, maybe even above Zeke in terms of dynasty. So for me, he's still awesome. I still have him my number 2 dynasty running back.
More questions for you. This is going to be good. So, okay. I feel like number 2 wide receiver is going to be very important to identify on these 2 teams for fantasy. So Green Bay Packers and Steelers. Who's the number 2 wide receiver there?
Wow.
I like how I'm interviewing you.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Now I'm interviewing Smitty.
I see. I asked you if you wanted to do a mutual because I was thinking we both could use the content for both our sites. So yeah. So I think that you're going to have Geronimo Allison's a player that I liked a lot last year. I don't know, health wise if he can get back to being a guy you can rely on. I think Scantling could have some intrigue. I don't know that we're going to have a guy that's going to be a locked and loaded wide receiver 3 coming out of the offense. We could, but I don't think we're going to know much until until we see both these guys on the field, because I think Allison and Scantling both have upside. Allison kind of, I think, was their default number 2 last year until he just couldn't stay. I don't know how many games he missed. Do you remember what the?
He missed quite a few. Probably, over half
so
the season.
it kind of took him out of the running of being that breakout wide receiver that a lot of people had. I had Allison as a guy that you definitely could maybe use as your wide receiver 3 heading into the year, but it just didn't work out. He missed. He played 5 games, so didn't get to see a whole lot. But I do like him if he can get a chance. I don't know that he'll get that role. They might spread it around. But if he does get a shot and can stay healthy, I think he's very, very capable of a high-end wide receiver 4 on your team if you're in a deeper league.
They could draft a tight end possibly too, Hawkinson or Noah Fant. And if you know they're drafting Noah Fant, then he's going to be in the receiving game, involved in the receiving game quite a bit. What about the Steelers though?
I like Washington a lot. I think Washington could be pretty good. I think that you're going to have Ben Roethlisberger need to throw it to somebody else. And I do think JuJu Smith-Schuster, similar to – well, okay, so what's your take on JuJu while we're on the topic? I think it's funny when people say that he's going to be focused on and shut down and not have a monster year because he's the only guy now. I think when you have James Conner and Samuels together as an awesome running crew, one of the best in the league, with an offensive line like they have, with the fact that JuJu, I think, can be their number 1 wide receiver and get a massive amount of targets. They have a trio that is as good as a lot of teams' trio. And just because they lost Bell and Antonio Brown, people are acting like they got to downgrade that offense. Yeah, they're not going to be quite as good, but they still have a better offensive attack than a lot of other teams. So I find it funny when people say that JuJu is going to be run into a lot of double teams and not be able to produce the stats that people expect, because a lot of receivers do that. There are a ton of receivers. Look at Hopkins. Look at a bunch of Mike Thomas. They don't have an Antonio Brown next to them. So what makes it impossible for JuJu to break out? But James Washington, to answer your question, is probably the default wide receiver 2.
But is he really good? And they also, I didn't even, this one slipped by me, but Dante Moncrief's on the Steelers now. I don't know if they'll have a number. I guess it's more clear who's the number 2 on the Steelers than it is on the Packers.
Some people like Switzer. I'm not sure. I'm not sold on him yet. I mean, he hasn't done much.
No, he has a small role. He'll have a role. That's for sure. Like he'll be in the mix, but I don't think he won't be number 2 though.
If they're
number
smart,
2 guy.
they will use Samuels out in the slot. They'll use him as kind of a wide receiver because he was a tight end eligible guy in college, and he actually entered last year as a tight end in Yahoo leagues, and then developed, I believe, his running back eligibility. So if Samuels is if he's still a tight end in Yahoo, that's a great grab. But I think they'll use him quite a bit as a receiver, regardless of what they do with Conner. And then James Washington, I think, will pick up the slack. I think he won't be near what JuJu was as the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh. But I think JuJu Smith-Schuster is about to have a monster year.
Well, I think JuJu is top 7 regardless. And I was a little bit with that hype, but okay, he's going to get triple team now. That's my initial reaction, and I don't like that. But still top 7 undoubtedly.
Yeah.
So but upon further examination, and I got it up right here, Antonio Brown, when he missed games, this is what I heard. I can't even see if he missed any. When Antonio Brown wasn't doing much, seemed like JuJu did okay though. Antonio Brown didn't miss any games last year. Maybe it was 2017. I'm looking at Antonio Brown. He played every game except that Week 17 debacle.
Yeah.
2017, Antonio Brown didn't play Week 16 and 17. JuJu, this is just what I heard. JuJu Week 16, he did pretty good. Week 17 did pretty good. I think the team kind of fell apart. So we have a very small sample size when Antonio Brown didn't play.
Yeah.
In 2017. So I took it kind of back, like, all right, he can do it. He still will see a lot of double coverage, and I think we still have to wait and see. Because, you gave examples, but is he as good as Mike Thomas and Hopkins?
Well, keep in mind he was a rookie last year, so, he don't really have much to go on other than last year, and he's improving. So I think breaking out and becoming, I'm sorry, not looking at Washington.
James Washington.
Yeah. You're talking about JuJu?
Yeah, JuJu.
Okay.
Now he's in his third year. I mean, he should be able to do it, but I still think there is some risk there that because playing alongside Antonio Brown, I mean, that's pretty dang sexy, man. Like, Antonio Brown is going to get a lot of attention. He's going to get the best cornerback on him at the very least.
Yeah, but to have 917 yards and 7 scores, now we're talking about JuJu. That's a big year for a rookie. I just think that
he wasn't even that good his rookie year.
Yeah,
he still did. He did good.
Yeah, he's just so elusive. Him and Calvin Ridley, I believe, could be the future in fantasy at wide receivers. Because obviously Mike Thomas, Devonta, those guys are still going to be there. But I think these are the two guys, Calvin Ridley and JuJu, that climb up and become those low end tier 1 wide receivers that become staples for years and years to come. I like both of them. They're hard to contain. You can't double team them like other wide receivers. They're just very elusive. The type of wide receiver like Antonio Brown, they can get open in double coverage, line up all over the field, do a lot of crossing patterns. These guys will find a way to get open.
What about the Saints? Traquan Smith would be number 2 wide receiver there, you think? Because I think that's the Cameron Meredith too, right? Who's the number? Because this is what's up with the Saints. This is why I bring them up, because you can put a cornerback to cover Kamara on third down. You can double team Mike Thomas, and that's when the Saints struggled. Was like that's the only 2 guys they had on their team. They didn't have a tight end. They didn't have a second wide receiver. So it was like, if we can just stop Mike Thomas and Kamara on third down, the Saints can't move the ball. And it was true for a lot of games. They kind of worked it out, but that's when they started the offense stalled a little bit. So it's like they really need that second option.
Yeah, Ted Ginn will probably survive in his normal role, but I think if anybody could emerge as the number 2, it would be Traquan Smith. I mean, Jared Cook's going to pick up a lot of receptions and be kind of like a nice little end zone target for them and Drew Brees. So, I don't know that any Saints wide receiver 2 is going to be in my lineups on a weekly basis, but I think that Smith has at least the potential. But Cook, Kamara, and Thomas, I think, are going to hog up most everything.
I think Ginn's passing the torch to Traquan.
Yeah.
Because they need, well, anyway, on my sleepers, I do have Jared Cook as a tight end sleeper. Like, I feel like that's not that great of a name, but I wanted to throw that out there. Like, Drew Brees, man, he's so dang good, and they do need another option to throw to. And you got to focus on Kamara and Mike Thomas, especially in the passing game. You just have to shut those 2 down. That's their money plays, and those guys are so good that Jared Cook is going to see a lot of mismatches out there and less focus.
Yeah, and Brees does really well with a tight end that is capable of 100 yards in a game, like that kind of receiver, not just a guy that's going to grab a touchdown of 40 yards. Like he thrives when he has a tight end of that caliber. And I think Cook coming off of 896, 101 targets, that's a pretty awesome year. 68 receptions, 6 touchdowns. He could easily have 906 in New Orleans, easy. I think he's got a very low floor. And the risk is not that high. What's his ADP? Do you still have that ADP data up?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if because he, like Njoku, I think is in the range where there's no risk. So if you grab, let's say, those 2 guys, you're probably looking at an awesome duo that could have you finishing in the top 5, top 6 tight ends.
He's mid-round 10, 12-team PPR, right after Trey Burton, who Trey Burton hurt my feelings. So I'm not drafting him anymore.
He's not a bad option too. Njoku, Burton, and Cook are actually probably some of my 3 best targets for guys outside the top 5.
I don't like Burton. I'd rather go and joke. I'd rather just see what else is out there, because the Bears spread the ball. Well, Taylor Gabriel's my friend, and he messaged me about that. I made like a little. I'm like, dude, you don't know who's gonna go off on the Bears. Like, this offense is just. Yeah. They got 2 running backs going. They got 3 wide receivers going. Maybe sometimes even 4 wide receivers, depending what happens. And then they got sometimes 1 or 2 tight ends. Like, he's just like, let's go. And then Mitchell Trubisky is like, he's so inconsistent. Mm-hmm. It's just like, that's why I don't like Trey Burton. I'd rather find somewhere else.
I hear you.
Like, I'd much rather have Njoku. Like, because come on, I like Mayfield more than Trubisky.
I hear you.
Vance McDonald's a guy I'm huge on. His ADP will probably catch up, whatever it is.
What's it?
Vance McDonald, round 7 is just, this guy's gonna. So we're talking about who's the Steelers, this and that. No Jesse James, no Antonio Brown, no Lev Bell. I mean, you're talking about Jaylen Samuels. He should be a receiver, Switzer. Like, that's all gravy, man. But it's like Vance McDonald's going to get so many more targets. And this guy is so fun to watch with his stiff arms. I feel like he's pretty good tight end and just needs the opportunity now.
Yeah, I think his best year was last year, right? Yeah. His best
He was
year.
on the Niners, like behind Vernon Davis most of the time.
Yeah.
He just really didn't do much, but just the opportunities he's got. He had like 2 of those highlight reels where he stiff-armed the dudes. It was just insane stiff arms.
So his stat line last year, 50 receptions for 610 and 4. What do you project him to have for 2000?
Oh, that's nasty because he's basically splitting time 50-50 with Jesse James.
So what do you got?
It could double.
Well, double.
That's the potential. It could double both the yards and the touchdowns. So why not? Like, how is that? I know it just sounds like, it's bold, but why not? No Jesse James, no AB.
Yeah. Well, that put him
you're not replacing AB.
That put him at 100 receptions, though. Well, I think.
100 receptions.
I like it. The thing is, when someone's bold on something, I love it. So
that's his upside, though.
I'm okay.
Realistically, it may not be there. Like, that's his ceiling. But it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Why? I can't come up with a reason to why not. The why not is if they draft a tight end.
Everything I do is pretty much bold. All my content. So one thing you'll always hear from me is when someone goes nuts on somebody, I'm never going to say they're crazy. I'm never going to say that's insane or you shouldn't. So I love it. Even though I disagree with the numbers, I like them a lot. I think 70, 65, 70, something like that reception-wise. 800 to 900 yards, maybe 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns could be his max. But I love it. I love when someone goes all in on a player and they go bold. So I dig it, man. Keep going. Keep throwing them at me.
Yeah, so his ADP is going to go up to round 4 or 5. It's mid 7 right now. It's going to go up. If not, who's my starting tight end.
Yeah.
Okay, and
I'll be drafting him to trade him right to you if we're in a league. Okay.
Now I have a poopy one. I don't know. Just throwing out George Swain, Jacksonville Jaguars, tight end 44 or something. I don't even know. But you figure someone's got to do something on the Jaguars. It's not looking good. I see them drafting like Metcalf, just going insane. I know they'll probably take a defensive player.
Swain,
I think they got the 7th pick.
Swain could double his TD production next year, which would be 2.
Which is gross. Yeah, I was going to say, what? Doubling?
What a stark difference. He had 1 TD, he could double it to 2. I agree. I'm on board with that.
At least with Swain, we don't have to read all these crazy Cowboy fan comments. Because you know how these Cowboy fans are. So at least when we talk about George Swain, we don't have to deal with these Cowboys guys anymore.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I'm going to pull up the ADP so I can roll with you on it.
Oh, it's probably unlisted.
No, I pulled it up, so I got it up right here.
No, I mean, he's not being drafted in its.
Oh, yeah.
He's like tight end 40, dude. He's like really, really low. Swain, not even in 14 team.
Are you taking a risk on Tyreek Hill in the range that you'd have to take him in, which would be at the very, very latest bottom of the 2nd?
Can I plead the 5th? Because it's so early.
Yeah.
There's obviously huge risk. I love Tyreek Hill's upside, but since I don't have to draft him right this second, I'll just wait and see what happens. Because he had some off the field issues, but seems like he wasn't directly involved in it. I don't know. I didn't even look into it because I don't care. Right now it's April. I don't have to draft him, so I'll just wait and see. And what'd you say his ADP was?
Right on. According to this, I think it's higher than it really is. Hill is at 2.06.
Yeah, I mean, I like him there a lot, but I have to wait and see because I don't want to draft a guy who's going to be suspended 8 games or go to jail or something.
I let it downgrade my Hill projections, but I don't let the possibility of Hill missing affect Mahomes too much because, it could be a couple games, it could be whatever. But I think it does impact you drafting Hill. It doesn't impact me drafting Mahomes.
I think it should factor it in. It's just I don't think it's too significant. Right. Look, if he misses a couple games, that's different. That's don't factor that in. But if he's like at risk of being traded or being missing, half the season or something, I think you should weigh that significantly into Mahomes. Tyreek Hill is a game changer.
What are you thinking happens?
He's good. Oh, I have no clue. Like I said, off the field thing happened, but I don't think he's directly involved in that. So I think nothing will come from it. But that's a pure guess.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything new on it. I'm trying to pull up some news wires here. Rumblings earlier that he came up in some trade conversations. Yeah, nothing for a while on that situation. So it could linger into the next year and not even come up during the year. So I think overreacting is bad, but I think not factoring in a little bit is bad as well. So I think I'm going to pass on him at 2.06, make him someone else's problem or someone else's, breakout or monster steal, but I'm not willing to take the risk when I have other names, right there like JuJu, or because I don't know if JuJu's going to climb up, but he's right at 2.62.
Look, we got 4 months. If nothing happens in 4 months, I think it's safe. So that's the realistic. We're not drafting until 4 months. So 4 months from now, if nothing happens, I think the risk is so minimal. If there's talks about it, then I see you passing him up. But he's closer to a first-round pick for me if we didn't have this risk.
Adam Thielen, 2.12. Too high, too low?
I don't know about these guys. These Vikings receivers are so weird.
I know you like Minnesota, or you like Kirk Cousins, but
I don't like him at all. I like Stephon Diggs. That's the only guy I like on the Vikings. I like Stephon Diggs.
I like Diggs.
But I don't like my I don't let that get in the way though.
Right.
Adam Thielen's obviously talented, but he was one of the most extreme cases I've ever seen. First 8 games, Adam Thielen's best wide receiver. Amazing, balling every game, getting 100 yards. Second half of the season, completely disappeared.
And they changed their offense to more of what they're going to roll with this year toward the end of the year. That's why Dalvin Cook had such a big end of the year, because that's the offense they were showcasing that they're going to run this year. So it will phase out Thielen a lot. I think he's a very risky second-round pick. But, there's a point where I'd take him, but it's not going to be anywhere near the 2.08 to 2.12.
I'll probably tailor my strategy to avoid him. So I'll be like, I already got Hopkins, I already got Adams. I love those guys. Like Devonta Adams, most consistent receiver.
You'll see.
I'm good. I don't need to take.
You'll see me deploy those two teams that I posted on Instagram, the Mahomes 3 wide receivers, and then the Mahomes and Zeke and Kamara. You'll see me deploy that in an auction or two, and I'm going to write about it and do some videos on it. But those are my favorite approaches in 2019. But I'm crazy. I like the grind and the work that goes into trying to land those running backs. I'd rather crash and burn trying to hit that home run. That's how I play fantasy football. It's boded well for me. It's just my style, and I'm really good at those sleeper running backs and sleeper wide receivers. So that is one of the most attractive and most fun ways to play. But if you're not good, if it stresses you out to work the waiver wire, if it stresses you out to do trades, and you're just that guy that wants to draft and not worry about your team, that's not a strategy or approach for you. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, well, overall, the strategy should be to go boom or bust because you're trying to win first place, because second place means you lost.
Yeah.
So that overall, if I'm generalizing it. In auctions, I guess there is a debate whether you go balanced strategy or what's it called, studs and duds.
Yeah.
I'm always going studs and duds. I don't know the numbers behind it or whatever, but balanced is so boring.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd rather just not play. I mean, fantasy football is supposed to be fun.
That's what I mean. So. I'd rather swing and miss, but doing something that I have fun with. I don't know how long you've played fantasy football, but I'm dating myself here. But back when Priest Holmes was the man, I probably had more fun owning Priest Holmes than I did any other player in fantasy football in the entire. He was my all-time favorite fantasy football player and favorite player. Owning him was like just the most enjoyable Sunday morning fantasy football event every single Sunday. That guy just walked into the end zone time and time again. He'd have those 4 or 5 TD games, and I don't know if did you play back then?
He was a beast. I played right when Priest Holmes was starting to pass the torch to, was it Larry Johnson or something?
Passed it for 2 years.
So Priest Holmes was still the starting running back when I played, but it was around it was at the end of his career, or at least at the end of his production day, when he was balling.
Okay. Any last guys you want to toss out before we?
Oh yeah. So whoever the Bears kicker is going to be, I think is going to be a baller. Like I always, and this is why I look at kickers, because it's just like with any type of marketing or anything, like kickers are the least important position. I always draft a kicker with the absolute last pick. Like I always do that. But if I'm able to do a little bit of research, because nobody does any research on kickers, I'm usually able to get the advantage. And the only time it didn't work out was last year. I drafted Carlson or whatever, the rookie kicker for the Vikings. And kickers, it was a weird year for kickers last year, this past year. But other than that, I've been really good. And whoever the Bears are going to sign, I really think I like him. I think actually they did sign a guy with a funny name. It was like
Redford. Redford Jones, I think, is their current kicker.
No, they had a guy with a name that could be used as a punt. Like his last name was like Upright or something. Something like, or Fails or something. No, that's a quarterback. Well, anyway, whoever they're starting kick, as long as he's decent, I like him. And then there's a super sleeper for those of you guys in weird leagues. I'd say 1% of our viewers are in weird leagues. Like you ever heard of these 32 team leagues? I don't know what the heck you guys are thinking, but like I said, to each his own. If you like that, I'm still willing to help you out. I'll still give me your advice. Just don't send me.
How do you not win when you have the first overall pick or the second like that's crazy.
Imagine, you make one small minor mistake and you're dead.
I mean, imagine doing the draft order and you're either going to get 1 or 32.
You can do it because you stay up 24 hours, but it's like just completing the draft is hard enough. Like, all right, let's get ready for the 12-hour draft if it goes fast. Like, nah. Anyway, the 49ers, I don't know if he's still on the team, signed John Brown, super sleeper kicker. So keep tabs on John Brown. Obviously, Robbie Gould is franchised right now. Maybe they trade him. Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe they cut John Brown, which is the most likely scenario. But watch where this guy gets picked up. He's my super sleeper kicker, and every year teams need kickers because of all this debacle going on and people getting injured. For defenses, I think the Bears are hands down the best defense in the league. I almost never reach for defenses either. I like the Browns and Colts this year, though. I feel like those are two defenses to target, especially if the Browns and Colts bolster their defenses through the draft, which they probably will be.
Probably will happen for the Browns. I like the Browns a lot overall. Very exciting team for 2019.
Yeah, remember when Garoppolo took over the Niners, their defense got better? Mm-hmm. So it's like I feel like if Mayfield does play well, it's going to help their defense too, especially if they go they put up scores and then they just go into pass rush mode. And I'm sure they're going to be trying to get after the passer and work on their pass defense because teams will probably have to throw the ball against the Browns. I'm probably staying away from the Rams and Chargers because I feel like they have too many holes. Like the Rams, I feel like you can throw on them. And what's a cool thing, the Super Bowl taught us so much, even though it's the most boring Super Bowl. It taught us so much. It taught us a lot about Todd Gurley. It taught us about Sean McVay, all these memes about trying to find the next Sean McVay. Teams are scrambling. They're like, oh, crap, maybe we shouldn't have did that. And it taught us about the Rams defense that you can have an amazing D-line. Not that their D-line is perfect, but still, just in theory, you could have amazing pass rushers however you want, whether it's interior linemen or defensive linemen, rushing the passer, outside linebackers. You need coverage because if you got a guy like Julian Edelman, a guy who they throw the ball to in 2 seconds, the pass rush doesn't get to you in 2 seconds. So you need some kind of coverage, and there was just too many holes in their coverage, and Marcus Peters didn't do that well on the Rams. So I didn't like them. The Chargers, they seem to be taking a step in the right direction, but they have these dope cornerbacks that never do anything any year, and they're so soft in the middle. So I think they're trying to bolster up that middle linebacker position or the middle, whatever they're trying to do. They're trying to bolster that up, but I just don't know if they can be a good team. They're like it's good on paper, but when you see it, not so much.
Good, all good. I think defenses and stuff to throw out there. People definitely, I think, look for that kind of content because a lot of people don't focus on it, so that'll help some people. Give me one, before I let you go, give me one dynasty prediction or breakout or guy to watch for that, in the coming years, whether it's a rookie, whether it's a guy already in the league that you think that is a guy to own now because the value is amazing. Go trade for him. He's going to be a stud. And I give you
that's a tough question because, the obvious is there. Chris, someone just traded for Chris Godwin in my league. I really like Joe Mixon, but he's not on a good team. That's so tough. But as far as rookies go, I'm really interested where these wide receivers are going to land. I think that's the biggest. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of stuff we don't know what's going to happen, but the biggest question mark is where these wide receivers are going to go, because we have wide receivers going as early as top 10. Some going in the first round. The same guys might go in the third round and could wind up on any team anywhere. And I think that's the biggest one. I guess you could say the same with running backs too, but not too many running backs are mocked to go early. There could be 5 wide receivers going in the first round.
Yeah.
It could be 7. There could be 3. You just really don't know. So I'm going to keep a watch on Hakeem Butler.
I like Butler.
Harry. I'm a huge DK Metcalf fan because I like you know what you get with Metcalf. You're not getting AB. You're not getting Wes Welker. You're not getting you're not getting that type of wide receiver. So I'm really interested to see where he lands. I absolutely love DK Metcalf.
And the reason I brought up the rookies too is because that is the one that I'm gonna, I guess, close out with is that N'Keal Harry is probably one of my boldest predictions I've ever made, and I'm saying that he's going to be a top 4 to 5 fantasy wide receiver within 1 to 2 years. Not right away, not as a rookie, but we'll see flashes of him become that. But I truly believe, and of course, situation matters, but sometimes receivers can mature a little slower. But I think he will mature regardless into that type of role. But whether it's in his second or third year versus his fourth or fifth will depend on where he lands. But I think that N'Keal Harry he has all the skills to become a top 4 to 5 fantasy wide receiver for the future. I love N'Keal Harry. I want to own him in every dynasty league I have.
He's definitely going first round, right? We think so.
He's got to, you think, but anything can happen. But I would think top 20 picks for sure. But
where do you think he would go? What's a good scenario? I was thinking Chargers possibly.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question.
Ravens. Oh, see, that's got to be good. Come on, your bold prediction is going to wither away if he goes on the Ravens. I think.
Well, it could definitely take a turn. But you gotta predict. That's the thing in this business. You gotta predict. We gotta make assumptions. So I'm assuming that his landing spot won't be there. If it is, then I'll have to readjust and figure out if it's something I'm going to keep in terms of my expectation in terms of the long term, or if it'll just make it a slower growth process. But where he goes, that's the question. Let's pull up an NFL draft tracker pick order. So you're thinking he goes in what range if you had to make a prediction?
Well, we got a mock draft on our site, so I got him. We got a head-to-head one. I did one with Mike, and I think we got him at the Chargers at 20. Oh, Mike got him at the Chargers at 28.
Okay, so you're thinking a 28 range.
Chargers. Who else? The Colts probably won't get him. The Raiders. It seems kind of crazy.
They could do it.
They go wide receiver. They could, but it's they just got 4 of them.
Yeah.
If he falls, I definitely see it being more realistic. But the Raiders could do anything. They could draft a quarterback early.
Yeah.
You never know. Ravens right there.
You wonder if the Texans would consider it. There are a lot of talk about AB going to Houston, so it's not unthinkable to think they'd want to add a receiver versus a defensive piece. But there are definitely plenty of spots that could kind of sour my outlook a little bit. But hopeful that he lands in the right spot. But I think talent-wise, it's there. And that's kind of what I have to go on right now and assess, because I'm not going to sit there and say, I'm not going to make that prediction because I don't know where he's going to go. I do, factor in and tell people that situation could dictate a lot. But talent-wise, based on what I have in front of me right now, he's a top 5 wide receiver skill set-wise. And things can change quick with the team. So if he lands somewhere that's not, most ideal, things can develop. But yeah, I wouldn't like the Ravens. I hope it's not the Ravens. That would be one situation where I think that's the only situation.
Yeah. That would suck. Because all these other situations, I could see him being good. Yeah.
Maybe he lands in New York for you.
Yeah, no, they got that extra pick because they traded Odell.
Yeah, I wouldn't be super happy about that, but it definitely could be worse. So, because I think they'll change, the dynamic, who they have passing the football in 2020 and 2021 is going to be very different. It won't be Eli, I don't think, but so things change quickly. So I'm not going to be down on that. I actually, probably look at that as okay, it could take maybe a year more, but being there with Barkley, that offense could definitely improve and become an elite offense very quickly as soon as they got a passer in there. So the Giants would be a good long-term spot for him.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, well, hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. We took what was going to be, a 10, 15, 20-minute interview, and we're approaching 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds. So good job. We're going to be over 2 hours.
That was my guess. I guess was 2 hours.
That's good.
If you ask me. I'm not looking at the time. I got to go pee, though, in a little bit. That's all I know.
Yeah. You good doing this again? I had fun, man. I think we could do it.
Yeah, I do.
We could do a collab show on a regular because I think that this meshes pretty well. You're thinking, my thinking, and I think we have a good flow here. And I think we'll see what people think when they watch it. But I think
that's what I was gonna say. Let me know of all the worst comments let me know what people think. Whether it's nasty, whether they liked it, don't have that guy back. He's trash, or he was cool. We could use him back. Yeah, I'm always down, dude. Like I said, this is what I like doing, and yeah, man. Make sure your listeners check me out on anything Fantasy Couch. YouTube's my main thing, but Twitter, Instagram. Just check me out, Fantasy Couch. I have a free ebook. We talk about that next time, called The 10 Commandments of Drafting.
Okay.
We'll talk about we'll definitely collab later, and I could talk about that and some cool stuff, chicken wings and beer in there.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to watch that video you told me to watch and definitely skip through real quickly. Also, a video that you won't be able to muster through, but definitely look at it. Before a lot of this, I've been on the Todd Gurley, don't draft Todd Gurley thing for a while. It's a big theme on my channel. Some people get tired of it because his ADP isn't falling, I continue to beat a dead horse. But I actually went on YouTube when I kind of started this channel as a way to kind of promote it. I said, no Todd Gurley 5,000 times in a row. It took me over an hour and a half. Just constantly, no Todd Gurley, no Todd Gurley, no Todd Gurley. So I've done some funny little promos for the channel to try to get it going. And I plan to do a lot more of that. I might go on with a no James Conner. Not too sure. It does get a lot of hate because of the dynasty owners of those players, but it definitely is a funny thing to a lot of people. But yeah, so there's a couple ones for you. And if you could, I'll definitely send people your way, guys. HuseyinTheBrain at Fantasy Couch. Make sure you follow him. Check out his book on Amazon, right?
Yeah, the book's on Amazon. Yeah. I also have a free ebook on fantasycouch.com if you want to check that out. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Send some subscribers my way because I'm growing this thing, man, and I plan on having it in a good year or two. I hope to be at your size. I know that's a lofty goal, but I think that the kind of content I'm producing, I'm cranking it out like almost on a daily basis with awesome videos. That's my goal, man. I know how to grind, and I just appreciate any help you can send my way. And I'd love to do a lot of collabs so that, our users kind of get to know both of us on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, man, for sure. Send me the link. I'll post it out. For you Todd Gurley Dynasty owners, it sucks. I feel for you, but I'm a side with Smitty on this one, man. It's a lot of risk right now.
Earmuffs. I wonder.
I feel sorry for those guys.
If I saw Todd Gurley on the street, do you think if he did have any idea what I was saying? I'm sure he doesn't. Do you think he'd give me a throat punch? Right to the
no, he would just not like you.
And
come on, he gets. Didn't he do something where he didn't score? Right, it was that 1 week where he got like 33, 38 fantasy points, and then he didn't score, and he even got some flack for that. So it's like some hate for that. So he's used to it. I mean, he's in LA.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't punch you, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't be like, hey,
He's not going to come on my show, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, he wouldn't come on your show. There's plenty plenty of other NFL players out there.
Yeah. Well, I'll have Jaylen Samuels on.
There you go. That's realistic.
I reach out to him all the time. I'm anxious to finally get him to respond. But having someone like him on, or N'Keal Harry, one of my big bold predictions for the year.
That would be dope. Yeah.
But HuseyinTheBrain Fantasy Couch, guys, check him out. I appreciate you coming on, man. I had a lot of fun throwing some names back at you, and let's do it often, okay?
All right, guys, I gotta go pee. Nice having me on the show, man.
See you, man.
All right,
good job. Okay, so we are interviewing HuseyinTheBrain from Fantasy Couch, very big channel on YouTube. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how long you guys have been on YouTube and how long your site's been going, and a little bit about what you guys do and offer.
Yeah, like in 2008, I was part of the school newspaper. Like, someone was like, hey, there's a video editing job, you should join. I was like, no, that's stupid. And then I was like, all right, I'll join. So I learned a lot about journalism, and I was like, kind of gave me free reign. So my buddy was like, hey, my classmate, my friend was like, hey, let's start a fantasy football show. So we started doing that. And as you know, like, there was hardly anybody doing fantasy football on YouTube. So like, even with not knowing what you're doing, you still got a bunch of views on there. So it was like kind of successful. And then we were like, let's just start our own thing after we graduating college. So we started that, and it was a lot of ups and downs. Like, the show wasn't that good, but we just kept sticking to it. And like, the cliche that people say, okay, when things are the worst, and when you were about to quit, that's when you usually have your breakthrough. And that's totally true, because and let me know, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, all the fantasy people I talk to, if things aren't going well, they quit in 2 to 4 years on average. That's like the right time frame. I'm all about numbers. Like, fantasy numbers go together. So it's like 2 to 4. Like, I've never really seen anybody go 5 years or more if things are just crap. Right. So we went, what's the math on that? We're going 5, 6, 7 years, right?
Pushing the envelope.
And it's like, it's not going bad, but it's like not anywhere, like, it's just not fire. And it's like, I have high standards. It's got to be fire. Like, it's got to be big numbers or big money or just something, like, it's got to be just really, really good. Something's got to be going really well. And it's not a full-time job. Some good stuff, but I'm just trying to sum it up. So anyway, we do a lot of parody videos. You've probably seen me. Like, I write some sarcastic comments. I do some funny stuff here and there. So like, we love comedy, and we always did Pacquiao parodies, Tiger Woods parodies, like that Nike commercial Tiger Woods did, and like, those always got a good views. And so we're defeated, and we're like, let's go one more Mayweather-Pacquiao fight coming up, and let's do one more parody. So we're just going through the motions, because me and my buddy Mike, we've been doing this from day one. This is how it started. And he comes over, I set up the green, it's not, like, not a lot of talking, not a lot of joking. It's like, hey, we're doing this, we're tired. So, okay, I do the green screen, get that ready to go. He's got his Pacquiao wig on, his Pacquiao coat, and we film, and then we start having fun. He starts like trying to fry some eggs with the gloves on. He's like drinking Hennessy. He's doing he's lifting weights, and he's got the belts on. Like, it just went viral. Like, not viral in the sense that, usually people think 1 to 10 million views, but it got 50,000 views overnight. And everybody was saying it's fire. Go ahead.
Do you know where that got picked up? Was it just through YouTube related search or searches, or did somebody post something?
We know what we're doing. So this is the plan. This is like super, super top. This is like really valuable information. It's easier said than done. So like, we've done this so many times, we knew what the deal was. So what we did was we filmed 3 different videos. But I mean, like, they're very barely different, with a draw ending, a win ending, and a loss ending. Mm-hmm. And we had it ready to go. And I upload it right as soon as the fight finished. So that way, when people are searching, there's like a crazy peak. Like, it's an insane peak soon as a big fight like that's done. There's so many searches all over the place. So that's really like it's so simple, but it's like, it's easier, said than done. And that's what this one guy did. He did an Obama parody. He knew that Obama was probably going to get elected, so he did an Obama rap parody, and it blew up like 20 million views instantly. We did that. And it worked, and it gave us the spark to keep going. Yeah. By the way, you got to watch that video. It's so dope. Everyone from kids to adults love that video. They said it's hilarious. People say they watched it 20 times in a row, and we've never got that type of reaction. And then we just kept going, and then I came out with certain things. People are right now. I came out with, it's called Let's Draft, and people copied that right now on YouTube. I'm probably not the first person to draft on a video, but I'm the first person to put my face on there. And I got that from the gaming channels. I try to incorporate cool YouTube stuff in my channel. So I'm a YouTuber first and foremost. And so people we've always been knocked off, and it pisses me off because people knock us off and knock me off before I make a lot of money. If I made a ton of money and people knock me off, all right, I got, I ate a good amount of the cake. Here's a piece. It's going to happen. But I've had to get so many trademarks, and no one's giving me credit for the Let's Draft series, and it's just going on. But it's cool. I'm not mad. It's not a sob story. It's just I gotcha. We've seen success, but there's been some huge road bumps before I feel like the real success has come. Yeah, and I don't know, again, how much you know about my history or even some of the people watching from your side of the fence, but I'm a dinosaur in this industry, and a lot of people don't know that because my The Fantasy Football Show channel is new. But because I came from a different place, I came from from Fantasy Football Starters, which closed its doors about 2 or 3 years ago. So I've started this brand, and I'm trying to get it up and running. But I used to run Fantasy Football Extreme back in 2004, 2005, and I actually invented the first instant trade calculator and first instant draft simulator, at least that I could find documentation on that was on a big site being used. Someone might have been toying with it in their garage. What year was the draft simulator? Because the trade thing I kind of see. I feel like that's easy. I feel like the draft simulator is more significant. Yeah, so I want to say it was 2004, 2005, right around that range. Man, that's old as heck. I know. And I've never heard of Draft Simulator till I've seen it on Fantasy Pros 5 years ago. So you can imagine my frustration seeing the industry blow up, because I'm an innovator. I love to innovate, make new things, do new things, hence why I'm throwing out this new Fantasy Football Show brand. Because I want to dominate the video space as well as I've done radio. I've done radio for 15 straight years. I'm on 1580 CBS Sports, the longest running fantasy football radio show in the world that we can find any documentation on. 23 plus years I've been on it for 15. So I'm like you, man. I'm an innovator. It's in my blood. And it pisses me off too that you see so many people using it. I couldn't. I was 20, some early 20s. Couldn't patent a trade calculator. I couldn't patent a draft simulator. Nor do I think you could protect something that all the way around so that people can't come up with it. But there were a couple sites. There were Football Guys had the Draft Dominator that you download, and there was some kind of trade analysis probably in that. I think there was a couple. The site that actually acquired my site that I worked for had a draft and trade analyzer that would do it slightly different. Mine was instant. You click any number of players on one side, any number of players on another, and it tells you what the value is. And I have that on my site now. And it's very much enhanced from that time. But I'm like you, man. I mean, doing that stuff from the beginning and trying to get ahead. And I'm blessed to have a huge following behind me. Like I said, having this video show is my next step, and I'm planning on taking it by storm and doing great things with it. So I appreciate you coming on and being a part of it. And just getting a few faces like you on the show has been pretty good. And I interviewed a couple guys from Football Guys last time. But glad to have you here, man. Dude, we're one of the top fantasy football channels now. That's great. 20, not huge, but medium sized now. So what are we at? 24,000 subs great. On YouTube and keep growing. And then I came out with this book, best-selling author. Show it up put it up to the. Well, I don't really want to promote my book till the end. Like, I have to have people like me first.
Yeah.
Before I
no problem.
But why I really want to show off the book is like I can read well. I mean, I can write well, but like I have super ADD, super OCD.
Yeah.
I could never read a whole book. Like reading is like really, really tough. It's like torture after like 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Like it's so hard to read, and just accomplishing that just goes to show. Like people that know me are like, wow, you really like wrote a book. Like that's crazy for you. Like editing, I can edit a video. Because that's what I used to do, music and videos. So I went to film school, so I can edit a video 5 days straight, barely eating, sleeping. Like that's not like I can do that. But reading a book, proofreading it and writing it, that was really tough. And then for it to be a bestseller was just like a dream come true. It's just awesome. Surreal. Like,
it's great.
We beat like Harry Potter. Was that J.K. Rowling? She came out with like how to play one of these fantasy games, but it just so happened to be in the same category. And Sal Palantonio did it at the same week, and then Carson Wentz wrote like a foreword.
That's great.
And like beat all them. Like you have to be bestseller for like a week or a day or something.
Yeah, that's great, man. I've written a couple things that I never got published, but someday hope to. But yeah, I mean, running out of time is a lot. How many guys do you have working for Fantasy Couch?
It's really just me now.
Okay.
Like, we got rid of a lot of the writers left, and it's been so much better. And my buddy Mike, of course, like, we do a podcast together, and he helps out with a lot of stuff. But it's mainly, like, it's more like a personal brand.
Yeah.
Just me on the videos, usually. And, like, once we stopped trying to be something we're not and have a bunch of writers. Like we had 11 writers total at one point. It just was so much better. And that coincidentally aligned with the same time we just took off from 3,000 subs to 6,000 to 9,000. And then it just went to, like 16,000 subs, 24,000 subs like that.
Where'd you get your pop? So I started in January with this new channel. So really starting from scratch. And I have about 30-something in 3 months. Is that good to your standards? And when did it pop for you? Because it's
what's 30-something? What does that mean?
No, I said I have 630 subs. Very small number, but for 3 months. So I think we're popping quickly for the amount of months we're on. But for only being up for 3 months, where did you get your pop? Was it 1,000? Was it 3,000? Was it 5?
The thing, this is how I put it, and there's so many different perspectives to put anything in. This is my hands down perspective. So however you want to grind it, whatever you think is, it's up to you. But it's 10,000 or bust. When we're at 9,000, people talk to us differently, and they're like, we're more like just some guys. It was just a 10K mark. It's like a superficial number. Like it was a huge celebration to us, but more huger to everyone else how they perceived us. Because once that digit grows, it says 9K or 9,000, whatever. Like the digit looks different. It says 10K. And it sums it up instead of 9,000, whatever. It was just totally different. People hated us differently. Like, we don't get a lot of haters nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, we used to get a lot. And I used to suck. Like, I used to suck at hosting the videos and doing that. Because Mike used to host them and he left. But 10K, the sponsors, the partnership, the way people talk, the way people perceive the views, everything changed once we passed the 10, I call it the 10K barrier.
Yeah.
Like the sound barrier. So it's how much you want to grind and get to 10. That's all that is what do you want to put in? How much do you want to wait? Do you want to improve or whatever you got to do to get to 10K? That's up to you, but that's the goal. It's 10K or bust. I don't care if you're at 9K or 9.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You got to get to 10K.
I do pride myself on not being out hustled in this business, in this industry, and having the experience to weather through the ups and downs of growing something from scratch because I've done it 4 times now. So I definitely have your passion, and I'm the same way. I watch a lot of people come and go, and people close their doors all the time. And I've been here for 15 years. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm grinding every day doing this stuff. So I do plan to have the numbers that you have, and I strive to get there really fast. So I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate any help you can send my way. Get a couple subs my way from today's show. Okay, so let's get into some of the fantasy stuff. You know, I won't keep you on too long. I know we've talked a lot already.
I'll be on as long as you want.
Okay, let's go 24 hours. Did you see my 24-hour live stream when I kicked off the channel? I went 24 straight hours.
24 straight. I don't want to do 24.
Yeah.
I'll go up to 3.5 hours.
But check it out if you haven't. I'll check your video out, but you check mine out.
I'm not watching you for 24 hours. That's dude, I have serious ADD. I have serious ADD.
Just click around a couple times. But
I'll skim through it. I can skim through it. Yeah.
I went 24 straight hours, didn't sleep. I took like 4 1-minute bathroom breaks. About maybe 5. But so I literally about 5 minutes wasn't on camera. Just put a sign up, you know, just like I have a graphic up for your name right now. Put a sign up in the bathroom, don't leave. And man, it was brutal. And my girlfriend was not super thrilled, but was such a trooper during that because every time I got a subscriber, I rang a bell. I rang this bell right here. It's just loud. It's super loud. And I rang that all throughout the night. So it was a fun event.